I died on a snowy night. The broken tiles of the cold palace could not keep out the wind. I curled beneath a moldy quilt, listening to the faint sounds of flutes and strings drifting from afar. Tonight was New Year's Eve. The emperor feasted with his courtiers, while I, once the honored empress, could not even beg for a bowl of hot porridge. Your ladyship. Your ladyship. Yancho's voice grew weaker. She had taken fever 3 days before and was now at death's door. I held her withered hand, thinking of how she had accompanied me from the eastern palace all the way to the throne, then down into this abyss. Faithful all her life, and this was her end. If there is another life. I muttered, my throat raw with thirst. If there is another life. My mind blurred. And then I seemed to see Daning standing before me, still young and beautiful, in that pale pink robe she wore the day we first met. Concubine. You are awake. I startled awake. What met my eyes was Yancho's face, young, lively. She held a steaming bowl of medicine to prevent miscarriage, smiling brightly at me. His Highness specially instructed this morning, since you've had such bad nausea, the kitchens have prepared some light porridge. Yancho helped me sit up, placing a soft pillow behind me. The imperial physician says this pregnancy looks very well. Surely it will be a healthy little prince. I stared, stunned, at my still flat belly. My fingers moved unconsciously to touch it. This was Qingye. My first child. The child who died too soon. I looked around. This was my sleeping chamber in the Eastern Palace. What day is it today? My voice trembled. Replying to my lady, it's the 8th day of the 4th month, Yancho said, puzzled. Did you forget? The eldest miss is visiting you today. Daning. My heart jolted. It was today. This very visit. The day the crown prince first laid eyes on my elder sister, and everything in my life changed. In my past life I had hated this day, hated Daning for stealing my husband. But now, strangely, I felt calm. Help me dress, I said softly. Nothing elaborate. Keep it simple. When Daning arrived, I was in the rear garden admiring the flowers. Sister. She approached with a smile, her pale pink gown making her skin look like snow. In my last life, I had been consumed with jealousy at her beauty. But seeing her now was like gazing into another world. She was beautiful, indeed stunningly so. But what of it? Elder sister. I smiled faintly, making no move to rise. She looked briefly surprised at my indifference, but soon smiled again. I heard you are with child. Father and mother are overjoyed, and sent me with some supplements. She signaled her maid to present several ornate boxes. I had Yancho accept them and thanked her, nothing more. Sister, you don't look well, Daning asked with concern. Is it the pregnancy? Just a little weary. I spoke coolly. You've come from afar, better go to the front hall for tea. I'll change clothes and join you. I deliberately lingered another half hour in my chambers. In my past life, I had been eager to show off, arranging things so that Daning would arrive before the crown prince left, hoping she would see his favor toward me. Now, I only wished to avoid that fateful encounter. But heaven never grants one's wish. By the time I reached the front hall, the crown prince was already there, chatting animatedly with Daning. The look in his eyes familiar to Mua's awe, infatuation. Your Highness. I saluted calmly. Nianqing, you've come. The crown prince smiled, beckoning me closer. Your sister is truly both talented and beautiful. We were just discussing poetry. Her insights are remarkable. Your Highness flatters me, Daning said shyly, lowering her head. I watched, my heart still as water. In my past life, this moment had cut me like a blade. Now, it seemed laughable. Men. Always chasing what they cannot have. Indeed, sister is gifted, I said with a gentle smile. I feel rather tired. Please, continue your talk, I'll take my leave. The crown prince looked surprised, but soon turned his full attention back to Daning. I left without a trace of reluctance. After that day, the crown prince went off into the Shin household. I stayed quietly, tending to my pregnancy, no longer questioning his whereabouts. When occasionally he visited my quarters, I merely fulfilled my duties, no longer striving for his affection as before. "Your ladyship, aren't you worried at all?" Yanqiu asked anxiously. "His Highness hasn't been here in 5 days. And they say the eldest Miss Yanqiu." I cut her off. "Bring me the little robe I was embroidering. The sun is good today, I'd like to finish it in the courtyard." I was not worried. Because I already knew the ending. Daning would enter the Eastern Palace, become the crown princess. And I would forever live in her shadow. In my last life, I had schemed and fought for favor, only to ruin both myself and others. This time, I chose to let go. 3 months later, the crown prince indeed petitioned the emperor to marry Daning as his crown princess. The day the decree was issued, he visited me, awkwardly. "Nianqing," he began, "you know. Daning, I understand," I answered calmly. "Sister is talented and virtuous. It is only right she be crown princess. I will keep to my place, so as not to trouble your highness." He seemed taken aback by my composure, pausing, then looking at me with gratitude. "You are always so sensible." Sensible. That word I had heard countless times in my past life. An empress must be sensible. A wife must be sensible. A woman must be sensible. And what did sensibility bring me in the end? Nothing but a withered corpse in the cold palace. "Your Highness, this concubine has a request." I lifted my head to look at him. "Speak." "This concubine wishes to move to Shihu courtyard in the west to nurture the fetus. It is more peaceful there." The crown prince hesitated for a moment. "That place is rather remote. You are with child." The imperial physician said the pregnancy is stable. "There will be no problem," I insisted. "Besides, since elder sister entered the Eastern Palace, there have been many affairs in the residence. This concubine wishes to avoid such disturbances." In the end, he agreed. 3 days later, I took Yanqiu and a few close maids with me to move into Shihu courtyard. Indeed, it was secluded, but quiet enough. There, I could stay away from disputes and await my child's birth in peace. Qingye was born on a rainy night. When his loud cries rang out, tears streamed down my face. In my past life, he had perished early due to palace strife, becoming the pain of my lifetime. In this life, I swore to protect him. "Side consort, it is a healthy little prince," the midwife announced joyfully as she handed the swaddled infant to me. I carefully received him. Looking at that small, rosy face in my arms, my heart was soft as water. This was my flesh and blood, the most important person in my life. The crown prince did not come to see us until 3 days later. His face beamed with joy as he held Qingye, reluctant to let him go. "Nianqing, you have given this prince a fine son," he said happily. "Father Emperor is very pleased as well. He has bestowed the name Qingye." I gave a weak smile. "Thank you, Your Highness. Duaning is also delighted. She even prepared some tonics for you," he said casually, his eyes still fixed on the baby in his arms. I sneered inwardly. Of course Duaning was pleased. She probably wished I would stay in Shihu courtyard forever, never disturbing her sweet life with the crown prince. In my past life, I hated her for this. But now, it was exactly what I wanted. "Your Highness, this concubine has an unworthy request," I said softly. "Speak." "This concubine wishes to continue living in Shihu courtyard. The environment here is serene, suitable for Qingye's upbringing. And..." I hesitated, "Since elder sister has just entered the residence, this concubine does not wish to disturb your newlywed life." The crown prince looked at me in surprise, a flicker of guilt flashing in his eyes. "Nianqing, you are always so considerate." "Very well. I will assign more attendants to look after you and the child." After he left, Yanqiu could not help asking, "My lady, why would you choose to remain in such a remote place? Now that the young lady has become crown princess, you should what?" I cut her off. Fight for favor? Struggle until death? Yanqiu, look at the chrysanthemums in this garden, blooming so quietly. Why insist on being the peony, dazzling yet attracting bees and butterflies, only to wither into dust? Yanqiu looked at me, half understanding, and fell silent. The year the crown prince ascended the throne, Qingye was already 6. As in the past life, Duaning was made empress, while I was granted the title of virtuous consort. My lady, concubine Li has again spoken rudely to the empress in the imperial garden, Yan Shuang reported while I was teaching Qingye to write. Without lifting my head, I said, "It has nothing to do with us." But concubine Li, relying on her father General Pei's military merits, grows ever more arrogant. Today she even mocked the empress as an aging, faded woman. Yan Shuang, I put down my brush, go see if the snow pear soup I made for Qingye in the small kitchen is ready. Yan Shuang withdrew resentfully. Mother consort, why does concubine Li always bully anti-empress? Qingye tilted his little face up to me. I patted his head. Because they both like your father. Both want his favor. And what about mother consort? Don't you like father emperor? I smiled. Having Qingye is enough for mother consort. That was the truth. Reborn into this life, I had seen through the emptiness of imperial affection. Rather than exhausting myself vying for favor, I would rather raise my son well. In the past life, after Qingye's death, I grew ever more ruthless and deranged. In this life, I only wanted him to grow up safely. My lady, His Majesty is coming this way. Yan Shuang rushed in again to announce. I frowned slightly. Since entering the palace, I had deliberately avoided the emperor, and he rarely came to Zhaohua Hall. Why was he visiting suddenly today? Before I could think further, the emperor was already inside. I quickly led Qingye to greet him. Rise, the emperor's voice was colder than I remembered. Passing by Zhaohua Hall, I recalled I have not seen Qingye for some time. I let Qingye step forward to pay respects. The emperor looked at his son, and for once a rare gentleness showed in his eyes. How are your studies? Replying to Father Emperor, your son is learning the Analects, Qingye answered obediently. The emperor nodded in satisfaction, then turned to me. Virtuous consort has taught well. Your Majesty flatters me, I answered with humility. He glanced around. Your hall is indeed elegant. Unlike concubine Li's lavish chambers, nor as splendid as the empress's, only plain porcelains and embroidered screens of your own hand. This concubine prefers quietude, I replied softly. He stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly asked, Virtuous consort, do you resent us? My heart skipped. This concubine would not dare. Not dare, or truly do not, he pressed. Since entering the palace, you shun us like a venomous snake. If we do not come to you, you never step foot in Qingjing Hall. In the past, when we were in the prince's manor, you would still smile at us. Now, in the palace, you seem distant. His voice carried a hint of something I could not decipher. People change. Shall I tell him it is because I have seen through his cold indifference? Or confess that his favor was but an illusion? This concubine only feels that your Majesty governs the empire day and night, and should not be troubled with harem trifles, I forced an excuse. The emperor gave a cold laugh. What a fine, dignified reason. Virtuous consort, we recall you were not always like this. Because back then I was foolish enough to believe in love. Your Majesty, I lifted my head to meet his gaze, this concubine now only wishes to raise Qingye well and be a dutiful, well-behaved consort. His eyes grew complicated. He reached out, as if to touch my face, but halted midway, withdrawing his hand. Enough. We shall come again to see Qingye another day. Tomorrow the Empress will hold a banquet to admire chrysanthemums. You should attend. Do not always lock yourself away. This concubine obeys. After he left, I breathed a long sigh. My lady, Yan Shuang whispered, His Majesty seems to care greatly for you. I shook my head. The heart of an emperor is unfathomable. Today he may care, tomorrow he may discard you like worn shoes. Best not to think on it. In this life, I wish only to be an onlooker. On the day of the chrysanthemum banquet, I deliberately chose a plain lotus pink gown. My hair was adorned only with 2 fabric flowers and a silver hairpin. Neither shabby nor ostentatious, I would not steal the radiance of the Empress or concubinely. Mother consort looks beautiful today, Qingye said with his little upturned face. I knelt to meet his gaze. Qingye must remember, no matter what you see at today's banquet, tell Mother consort afterwards. Do not speak a word at the scene. Yes, your son understands. Just as Mother consort says, if you do not listen, disputes will cease. Pleased, I patted his head. In my past life, I had schemed endlessly for power, never teaching Qingye the treachery of the human heart. In this life, I wanted him far from filth and strife, to grow into a wise and broad-minded man. Your ladyship, it is nearly time, Yan Shuang reminded as she entered. I held Qingye's hand and walked out of Zhaohua Hall. The autumn sunlight fell gently over the palace walls, setting the glazed tiles aglow. This palace is so cruel in its beauty. In the imperial garden, the banquet was already prepared. The Empress sat at the head, resplendent in crimson phoenix robes, her dignity unmatched. Concubinely sat on her right, dazzling in a bright rose gown, her hair glittering with jewels. This concubine greets the Empress, I said, leading Qingye in proper salute. Duaning smiled sincerely and gestured to her left. Sister is here, sit here beside me. So we may speak as sisters do. I rose, taking Qingye to the seat. Concubinely let out a cold snort. Her Majesty is truly affectionate to virtuous consort. The Empress smiled mildly. She is my younger sister, and she bore the Emperor's first son. Of course I must show her care. And what of that? Concubinely twirled her fan, her meaning pointed. He is not the legitimate heir. I lowered my head to sip my tea, amused. Did concubinely not understand? The distinction between legitimate and concubine-born is a matter of propriety, not birth. If one were to dwell on it, would not the whole court laugh at the royal family? Why scramble for empty titles, when in the end all become dust? Seeing my indifference, concubinely changed the subject spitefully. Your Majesty, I hear the Ministry of Rights is preparing the selection of new consorts. Soon the palace will be lively. It has been 3 years since His Majesty's accession, the Empress said calmly. Indeed, the harem should be replenished. So well informed, concubinely, I thought. Concubinely's lips curved. I imagine, once more princes and princesses are born, the Empress Dowager will be very pleased. Especially if they are as clever as the eldest prince. Her deliberate pause was obvious. I only laughed. Ah, I nearly forgot to congratulate concubinely. I hear you have recently acquired a statue of the goddess of conception. I shall come burn incense someday. After all, in this harem, which woman bears a dragon seed depends on the goddess's blessing. Concubine Li's face instantly paled, unable to retort, only glaring at me in hatred. The grand consort selection of this life came earlier than in the last. Sitting below the Empress, I glanced over the rows of young girls. Most were 15 or 16, like fresh blossoms. Suddenly, a familiar name rang out, daughter of Vice Minister of Rights, Yan Huayan Shu, aged 15. I snapped my head up to see the figure bowing in the center of the hall. Even though I had braced myself, the sight of Yan Shu still struck me. Dressed in pale green, her brows delicate, her demeanor ethereal, she was the very image of Duaning in youth. The hall fell silent. I stole a look at the Emperor, only to see him staring fixedly at Yan Shu, so distracted that the tea in his cup tilted without notice. Duaning's face had turned ashen, her fingers gripping the armrest tightly. Keep her. Grant her a sachet, came the sharp announcement of the eunuch. Yan Shu thanked the Emperor respectfully. As she rose, her gaze inadvertently met mine. A flicker of puzzlement crossed her eyes, quickly masked. I turned away, sighing inwardly. This life, we finally meet again, Yan Shu. Yan Shu was given the title Beautiful Lady and assigned to Shiyu Pavilion higher rank and better residence than in the past, clear proof of the Emperor's favor. The Empress excused herself from morning court rituals, feigning illness. On my way to pay respects to the Empress Dowager at Funing Palace, I saw from afar a long line of eunuchs and maids carrying rewards toward Shiyu Pavilion, led by none other than Li Dequan, the Emperor's close attendant. My lady, shall we avoid them? Yan Shuang whispered. I shook my head. No need. We walk our own path. But as we turned a corridor, we came face to face with concubine Li. Today she dressed with unusual extravagance, her hair glittering with pearls and jade under the sun, yet the gloom in her eyes could not be concealed. Well, if it isn't the worthy consort, Consort Li said with a false smile. What is it off to curry favor with the newly favored beauty one as well? Consort Li jests, I replied calmly. I have only just returned from paying respects to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager does dote on you, Consort Li snorted. But don't be too smug. You know well enough whom Yan Shu resembles. The Empress must be losing sleep over it. And you, as her younger half-sister, don't you think you ought to console her? She deliberately emphasized the words younger half-sister. I laughed coldly inside. So this was her scheme to provoke me into opposing Yan Shu, so that she could sit back and reap the benefit. Her Majesty has the Emperor's concern. Why should this concubine meddle? I said lightly. But as for Consort Li, her complexion looks unwell. Should I summon the physician? Consort Li's face darkened. No need for your trouble. She flung her sleeves and swept away. Yan Shuang looked at me, worried. Your ladyship, Consort Li seems to no need to mind her, I cut her off. Let's return. Qingya should be finished with his lessons. In the days that followed, the balance of the harem began to shift. The Emperor summoned Yan Shu almost daily, bestowing gifts upon Shuyu Pavilion as though they were flowing water. The Empress's illness relapsed again and again, never improving. Consort Li, meanwhile, contrived to happen upon the Emperor often in the imperial garden, but to little avail. As for me, I remained secluded, focused on Qingya's upbringing, paying only occasional respects to the Empress Dowager and listening to her speak of palace affairs. On the Dragon Boat Festival, the palace held a banquet. This was Yan Shu's first formal appearance at a grand gathering since entering the palace, and all were eager to see how the new favorite would fare. The feast was held among the pavilions of the imperial garden. I arrived a little early and chose an inconspicuous seat. The Empress, pale-faced, sat in the seat of honor, forcing herself to receive the greetings of the consorts. Consort Li sat to her lower right, eyes flicking ceaselessly toward the entrance. Soon a eunuch's shrill voice announced, His Majesty arrives. Beauty One arrives. We all rose to bow. The Emperor entered hand in hand with Yan Shu, his face alight with rare joy. Yan Shu wore a pale yellow palace gown, her hair adorned only with a few pearl blossoms, her skin like snow, radiant beyond compare. Be seated, the Emperor waved, personally guiding Yan Shu to a seat just beside Consort Li. Consort Li's face instantly turned ashen, the kerchief in her hand was nearly wrung to shreds. Daning managed a smile, but her eyes could not hide their sorrow. The banquet began, with dancers performing and wine flowing. Suddenly Consort Li rose. Your Majesty, this concubine has recently learned a new piece. I would like to perform it for you and my sisters. The Emperor gave a perfunctory nod. Granted. A guqin was brought, and she played the phoenix seeks his mate. To be fair, her skill was considerable, but to choose such an overtly amorous piece in this setting was ill-judged. When the song ended, the Emperor merely said, not bad, before turning to whisper and laugh with Yan Shu. The smile froze on Consort Li's lips, a flash of venom glinting in her eyes. Beauty One, she suddenly raised her voice, I've heard that you, too, are accomplished in the arts. Might you honor us with a performance? Yan Shu demurred politely. This concubine is shallow in talent, unworthy of performing before your ladyship. No need for modesty, sister, consortly pressed. His Majesty often praises your mastery of the arts. What better occasion than today for us all to witness it? I could see the trap. Refusal would seem ungracious, acceptance would invite comparison. Yan Shu glanced at the emperor. He gave a slight nod. She had no choice but to rise. Then this concubine shall disgrace herself. To everyone's surprise, she did not choose the guqin, but asked for a jade flute. At the first notes, the entire hall was transfixed. The melody was unlike any I had heard, pure, haunting, like weeping and yearning at once. The audience sat entranced. The emperor's eyes grew ever brighter, at last he clapped in delight. Excellent! Such music belongs only to the heavens. Rare indeed to hear it among mortals. Yan Shu lowered the flute with a shy smile. This was a piece of my own composition, song of longing. Forgive my clumsiness. My love is too modest, the emperor said fondly. Li Daquan, bring forth my jade bangles of mutton fat jade. Reward beauty one. Consort Li's face turned livid. She suddenly rose. Your Majesty, this concubine feels unwell. I beg leave to retire. Without waiting for reply, she stormed off in fury. An awkward silence fell, until Daning forced some polite words to smooth things over. But I noticed how often her eyes strayed to Yan Shu, full of complex, unreadable emotion. Back in my quarters, Yan Shuang muttered, my lady, today Consort Li truly brought shame upon herself. The more she behaves thus, the more the emperor will loathe her, I replied coolly. Indeed, not many days later came word, Consort Li was punished with 1 month's confinement for misconduct before the emperor. Summer waned into autumn, and Daning's health worsened. When the Empress Dowager summoned me, she spoke gravely of how Daning had been listless, the physicians saying her illness was born of melancholy. The emperor had not visited her in a long time. I said nothing. In my past life I had wished fervently for Daning's fall. But now, watching her spiral downward, I felt an unfamiliar trace of pity. The Empress Dowager gave me a meaningful look. Go see her. Advise her to set her mind at ease. What woman in this palace has not endured lost favor? In Fingy Palace, I almost failed to recognize her. Once dazzling, she was now gaunt, dark circles under her eyes. Sister, she greeted me weakly. Sit. I bowed and took a place by her bed. Has your Majesty felt better of late? Better? How can it be better? Suddenly her voice rose. The emperor has not set foot in Fingy Palace for 2 months. His eyes are only for that Yan Shu, that impostor. I motioned the maids to withdraw, then said softly, Sister, mind your words. What do I care? She laughed bitterly. This palace is no different from the cold palace now. Nianqing, do you know? Yesterday was my birthday. The emperor did not say a single word, just sent Li Daquan with the routine gift. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I gave him everything, and this is what I receive. I could not find words to comfort her. In my last life, Daning had preserved her empress's dignity until the end. Yet now, she wept bitterly before me. Was it because, without my schemes against her, she was left defenseless before the reality of lost love? I chose my words carefully. His Majesty is merely bewitched for a time. He will see, in the end, who truly cherishes him. Daning shook her head, her gaze hollow. No. I know him. Once he turns his heart, he never looks back. She suddenly grasped my hand. Nianqing, do me a favor. What is it, sister? I want to see Yan Shu, she whispered, barely audible. Alone. My heart jolted. What do you intend? Don't worry, I won't harm her. She gave a wan smile. I only want to see. What is so special about the woman who has taken my place? I hesitated. In my previous life, Daning and Yan Shu had never met directly. What would come of this meeting now? Leaving Fingy Palace, I went straight to Shuoyu Pavilion. Yan Shu was startled to see me, and hurried to rise in greeting. Worthy consort, how could you come yourself? It is I who ought to call upon you. I studied her. In mere months she had shed her girlishness, carrying herself now with poise and confidence. No need for formality. I came with a message from the Empress. At the word Empress, her eyes flickered. Please, my lady. Her Majesty wishes to meet you privately. Tomorrow at noon, in the back garden of Fingy Palace. Yan Shu frowned slightly. That would not be proper. Indeed it is not, I said, meeting her gaze. So the choice is yours. I turned to leave, giving her no chance to question further. I had done my part. The rest would be up to their fate. The next day, when Qingye returned from his lessons, I was pruning chrysanthemums. Mother consort. He ran to me, breathless. Today I studied Mencius. Master Zhang praised my understanding. I set down the shears, wiping sweat from his brow with a kerchief. Slow down. Mother consort, he lowered his voice. Why doesn't father like the Empress anymore? Wasn't she the woman he loved most? My heart jolted. Who told you this? Everyone in the palace is talking. They say Beauty One looks like the Empress when she was young, so father favors her. I pulled him to sit beside me. Qingye, remember this, in the harem, affection is the most unreliable thing of all. Today's favorite may be tomorrow's outcast. What matters is to guard your own heart, unmoved by outward things. He nodded solemnly. Like you, mother? I smiled. Yes. Like me. Then. If one day father doesn't like me either, what should I do? Pain pierced me. I drew him into my arms. That will never happen. You are his eldest son. He will always care for you. And besides, I cupped his small face, no matter what happens, mother will always be by your side. He nestled against me, then whispered, Mother consort, when I grow up, I'll protect you. I won't let anyone bully you. My eyes instantly grew wet. The child who, in my last life, had been taken from me, now sat alive and well in my arms, vowing to protect me. This was heaven's greatest gift. Good child. I kissed his forehead. But for now, let mother protect you. Just then, Yan Shuang hurried in. My lady, something has happened at Fingy Palace. When I arrived, chaos reigned. Daning lay unconscious across a stone table in the garden. Yan Shu knelt beside her, anxiously pressing her philtrum, while the maid stood in panic. What happened? I strode forward. At the sight of me, Yan Shu looked relieved, almost desperate. Worthy consort. Her Majesty suddenly fainted, this concubine enough. Call the physician at once, I cut her off, signaling Yan Shuang to help carry Daning inside. Yan Shu hesitated. Should this concubine withdraw first? I fixed her with a deep look. What do you think? She bit her lip. I understand. Today, this concubine was never here. Clever as she was, she grasped at once the implications. If it were known that the Empress had summoned a favored consort and collapsed in her presence, the scandal would be immense. After she hurried away, the physician arrived. His diagnosis, the Empress's long-suppressed grief and resentment had consumed her heart. Because of poor diet, her qi and blood became deficient, and she needed rest. I sent someone to report to the Hall of Government, but was told the Emperor was in discussion with ministers and had no time to come. He only passed word that the Empress should rest well, and the imperial physicians would be on standby. When Daning woke, it was already dusk. Seeing me by her bedside, a flicker of disappointment flashed in her eyes. He didn't come, did he? She asked weakly. I didn't answer, only helped her sit up and handed her a bowl of ginseng soup. Elder sister, drink some first to regain your strength. Daning drank mechanically for a while, then suddenly asked, Yan Shu. What did she say to you? Not much, I replied softly. She had barely arrived when you fainted. Daning gave a bitter smile. Do you know? She really is special. It's not just that she looks like me in my younger days. She is clever, perceptive, knows how to adapt. Most importantly, when she speaks of the Emperor, her eyes. They hold admiration, fondness, but not this madness of obsession like mine. I listened quietly, my heart filled with mixed emotions. In front of others, Daning always maintained her Empress's pride, yet now she was dissecting her own failures before me. Elder sister, rest, I said, tucking the quilt around her. Some things cannot be forced. Suddenly she gripped my hand. Nianqing, you've changed. Back in the Eastern Palace, your eyes and heart were all for the Emperor. But now, when you look at all this, it's as though you're watching a play. My heart trembled. I never thought the one who understood me best would be the very person I once hated most. People change, I answered softly. After the double ninth festival, the weather grew colder. One day, while I was in the study teaching Qingye to copy characters, Yan Shuang rushed in to report, "My lady, Lady Wan requests an audience." My brush faltered slightly. Yan Shu had been in the palace for over half a year, yet this was the first time she came to Zhaohua Hall of her own accord. "Have her wait in the main hall," I said, setting down my brush. "Qingye, continue practicing on your own." Inside the main hall, Yan Shu was admiring a landscape painting. Hearing footsteps, she turned and bowed. "This concubine begs pardon for the intrusion. I hope your ladyship will forgive me." "Lady Wan is too polite," I gestured for her to sit. "I wonder what matter brings you today." After the maid served tea and withdrew, Yan Shu took a sip before speaking. "In truth, this concubine came to give thanks." "Thanks?" "That day in Fingyi Palace, had your ladyship not intervened in time, I might have." She broke off, fear flickering in her eyes. I smiled faintly. "Lady Wan overstates it. The Empress was merely momentarily unwell. It had nothing to do with you." Yan Shu looked at me intently. "Your ladyship truly is as kind as rumored. Only, I cannot shake the feeling that you already knew something would happen." A jolt went through me. Yan Shu was indeed intelligent and keen. "Merely coincidence," I said lightly. "But you meeting the Empress in private was risky." Yan Shu gave a bitter smile. "How could I not know? But when the Empress summons, I dare not refuse." She hesitated, then said, "Your ladyship, I have a request." "Speak." "Since entering the palace, I have often heard that your ladyship is serene and never competes. In this harem, I walk as on thin ice. I wish to ask for your ladyship's guidance. I studied the clever young woman before me. In my previous life, she was my greatest rival, we fought to the death. And now, she sought my counsel. Lady Wan overestimates me," I shook my head slowly. "I am but a recluse, unversed in the world. What guidance could I possibly offer?" She seemed unsurprised by my refusal. "Your ladyship is too modest. Even in my short time here, I see clearly the Empress Dowager holds you in esteem, and even His Majesty treats you with special regard. Such things do not happen by chance." I only smiled, silent. She pressed on. "This concubine dares not hope for your ladyship's protection, only that should danger arise you might offer a word of warning. To refuse further would sound deliberate." After a pause, I said, "Since Lady Wan speaks so sincerely, I will say only this, beware of consortly." Yan Shu bowed gratefully. "This concubine understands." "Thank you, your ladyship." As she rose to depart, her eyes fell on a copy of Zhuangzi upon my desk. "Your ladyship also reads Zhuangzi?" she asked curiously. "On occasion," I replied. "When the spring dries up, the fish struggle together upon the land, moistening each other with their breath and saliva. It would be better to forget each other in the rivers and lakes." "Quite interesting." Yan Shu mused, "This concubine feels that since we are already upon the land, foregoing each other is not as good as helping each other." I was slightly taken aback. I hadn't expected her to interpret it so. "Perhaps," I said lightly. "Yan Shuang, see Lady Wan out." In mid-October, the emperor hosted an archery competition among the princes in the imperial garden. Qingye was 10 years old. Under my deliberate training, his skill in riding and shooting already surpassed the others. I did not hope for him to claim the throne, only that, no matter what came, he could protect himself. "Mother, your son is nervous," Qingye whispered, tugging my hand before setting out. I knelt to straighten his collar. "Remember what mother has said, do your best, that is enough. Winning or losing does not matter." At the competition, the princes took turns. The late noble consort Hui's third prince was already 9, and his archery was excellent. Consort Lu's fourth prince, only 6, performed decently with the help of attendants. When it was Qingye's turn, his first arrow missed. Snickers rose around us. My handkerchief twisted tightly in my grip. But then I saw him take a deep breath, notch another arrow. By the third and fourth shots, he grew more confident, each arrow striking true. The crowd erupted in applause. "Good." The emperor rarely smiled so openly. "Worthy son of mine. Li Dequan, grant my little golden bow to the eldest prince." Excited, Qingye ran to me. "Mother, did you see? I won." I stroked his head. "Mother saw. Qingye did wonderfully. Father praised me. He said I'm like him when he was young." Qingye's eyes sparkled. Warmth filled my heart. In this life, at least father and son shared more moments, and Qingye felt more of his father's love. "Virtuous consort," the emperor's voice sounded beside me before I realized he had approached. "You have put much effort into Qingye's training." I bowed. "Your Majesty flatters me." It was the tutors who instructed well. I only oversaw occasionally. "No need to be modest," he said, watching Qingye proudly showing off the golden bow to the eunuchs. "This child is bright and diligent. He will achieve great things." I lowered my head, concealing the storm in my eyes. "Your Majesty is too kind." "I have decided," the emperor suddenly declared. "From tomorrow, after his daily lessons, let Qingye come to the Hall of Government for an hour. I shall personally instruct him in state affairs." My heart leapt. In my previous life, this never happened. As the eldest son, if Qingye were personally taught by the emperor, then his future. This concubine, on Qingye's behalf, "Thanks your Majesty for your grace," I said, suppressing my elation, "Boy steady." The emperor gave me a meaningful glance. "Virtuous consort, you are always so restrained." With that, he turned and left, leaving me standing there, emotions surging. When the first snow of November fell, Daning invited me to Fingi Palace. I thought she might be unwell again, but when I entered, she looked in good spirits, arranging flowers in the warm chamber. "Sister, you're here," she smiled, beckoning. "Come taste this newly gifted Longjing." I bowed and sat opposite her. "Elder sister looks well today." "I've thought some things through," Daning said as she poured tea. "Naturally I feel better. And I have you to thank for that day's words." I was surprised. I said nothing. "Exactly." "Because you said nothing," she said, her gaze calm and clear. "When I awoke and saw you at my bedside, there was no pity in your eyes, no scorn, only calm." At that moment, I realized. One can live differently in this palace. I sipped my tea in silence, not knowing how to respond. "These days, I've thought a lot," Daning went on. "After marrying the emperor, I tied all of myself to him. When he loved me, I felt like the happiest woman alive. When he grew cold, I fell into hell. But then I saw you. Nianqing, do you know? I began to envy you." "Envy me?" I nearly choked on my tea. "Envy your freedom," Daning said earnestly. "You have your own world, Qingye, books, flowers, all of which make you happy." I set down my cup, emotions swirling. In my past life, Daning was my enemy until death. Now she treated me as a model. "You overpraise me, elder sister." She shook her head. "Don't be modest." I asked you here today to say I've decided to live again as a true empress should. No more despairing over the emperor's neglect. No more jealousy toward Yan Shu. I want to learn to live as you do. I looked into her resolute eyes and felt moved. Perhaps Daning had always been such a lucid person, only twisted by palace struggles. That elder sister can think so is a blessing for the harem, I said sincerely. Daning smiled. By the way, I hear Qingye often goes to the Hall of Government lately? Yes. His Majesty is personally instructing him. That is good, Daning nodded. Qingye is wise and kind. He will achieve much. Do not worry, I will protect him as best I can. My eyes stung with heat. This concubine thanks elder sister deeply. On the Lantern Festival of the first month, I had just returned from greeting the Empress Dowager when Yan Shuang reported, "My lady, Lady Wan has come with many gifts." I frowned slightly. Since that day, Yan Shu had come to Zhaohua Hall more often, always with some pretext asking about poetry, bringing embroidery patterns. Now, on the Lantern Festival, she even brought lavish gifts. Bring her to the warm chamber, I said, removing my cloak and changing into a plain robe. This concubine greets the virtuous consort. Yan Shu bowed, her smile radiant as spring sunlight. On this Lantern Festival, I came to pay my respects. Lady Wan is too courteous, I motioned her to sit. Why not prepare a feast in your own palace on such a day? She had her maid present a brocade box. This concubine made some yuanchao by hand, thinking your ladyship might enjoy them. Inside were 6 crystal-clear dumplings, Jiangnan style, thin-skinned and filled, made with lotus root starch, light and refreshing. I was surprised. In my past life, I too had tasted these yuanchao, which Yan Shu had made specially for the emperor. I hadn't expected that, in this life, she would first bring them to me. Lady Wan has gone to much trouble, I said, signaling Yan Shuang to accept them. Qingye will surely like them. How is the eldest prince lately? Yan Shu asked with concern. I hear His Majesty often summons him to the Hall of Government. I raised my teacup, watching her expression. He is well. Only some beginner's lessons. Yan Shu nodded lightly. The eldest prince is intelligent and gifted. He will achieve great things. She paused, then lowered her voice. Your ladyship, in truth I came today with a request. Finally, the real purpose. I set down my teacup. Speak. This concubine has been in the palace nearly a year. Though favored by His Majesty, I still walk on thin ice. I wish to ask your ladyship. For protection. I arched a brow. With His Majesty's favor, why need you my protection? Favor is like flowing water here today, gone tomorrow, Yan Shu smiled bitterly. I know well, without foundation, love is but a tower in the clouds. She drew a breath. Your ladyship holds the Empress Dowager's trust, and has the eldest prince beside you. If I might gain your guidance, I would be endlessly grateful. I did not answer at once. In my past life, Yan Shu had relied on her own wits to survive, never bowing to anyone. Yet in this life, she sought my shelter. What do you want? I asked directly. An ally, Yan Shu said just as directly. In this harem, I need someone I can trust. You need someone who can speak in His Majesty's ear. We each gain what we need. I studied her quietly, then smiled. Lady Wan is indeed clever. But why do you think I need you? Because of the eldest prince, Yan Shu replied without hesitation. You may withdraw from competition, but the eldest prince grows older and cannot escape the struggle over succession. I am not skilled, but I can still speak a few words before His Majesty. My heart jolted. She saw through so much. Indeed I could ignore love and rank, but for Qingye's future, I could not turn away. You are bold, I said coolly. To dare speak of the succession. Yan Shu remained calm. This concubine would not dare. Only. One must prepare for the future. From her sleeve, she produced a small booklet. This is a record I compiled of succession struggles and past reigns, including how His Majesty himself prevailed. Perhaps it will aid your ladyship. I flipped through a few pages and was startled. It detailed past struggles thoroughly, with clear analysis, something that must have taken long preparation. How long have you worked on this? I asked. She smiled. Since the day I entered the palace. I always learn the rules before I wager. I closed the booklet, gazing at her deeply. And what do you want in return? Your ladyship's trust and your aid at critical moments, she said earnestly. I seek nothing else. The warm chamber fell silent, save for the crackle of the brazier and faint sounds of servants preparing the lantern festival outside. Very well, I finally said. But know this: anything cruel or unjust, I will not do. Yan Shu's eyes brightened. Rest assured, your ladyship. Nor would I. Thus we reached a subtle agreement. No vows, no contracts, only an unspoken understanding of mutual benefit. In early February, the spring chill lingered. That day Qingye returned from the Hall of Government unusually quiet, barely touching dinner before setting down his chopsticks. What is it? I touched his forehead. Are you unwell? Qingye shook his head, hesitated, then asked suddenly, Mother Consort, why can't your son be crown prince? My chopsticks nearly slipped from my hand. Who told you this? Today, while reading in the side hall, I overheard the Grand Tutor and father speaking, Qingye whispered. They said the heir should be established early, to secure the realm. And they said though your son is the eldest, yet. Yet what? I forced calm, though my heart roared. Yet his mother's birth is not sufficient, Qingye looked at me. Mother Consort, what does that mean? Why should whether I can be crown prince depend on you? A sharp pain stabbed my chest. In my past life, Qingye had died young, spared such cruel truths. But now. How could I explain to an 11-year-old that his fate was tied to his mother's status? Qingye, I pulled him to sit by the window. Do you know about bees? Yes. The Grand Tutor taught me bees have a queen, worker bees, and drones. Yes. I explained softly, a queen bee is born a queen, not because she is braver or cleverer than the others, but because she was born that way. The human world is sometimes the same. Some people, because of their birth, are destined to shoulder greater responsibilities. Qingye half understood. So. Because Mother Consort is not the Empress, your son cannot be named heir apparent? Not necessarily. I stroked his hair. In history, many wise rulers were not born of an empress. What matters is, I kept his little face, no matter what happens in the future, you must always be upright and kind. Do you remember that? Qingye nodded, then asked again, then. Does father like third brother more? My heart clenched. The third prince, the one who, in my past life, eventually ascended the throne, was only 10 now, yet already being regarded by courtiers as the likely heir? Your father loves all his children equally, I forced a smile. Enough of this. These things are not for you to worry about. You still have lessons tomorrow, get some rest early. After coaxing Qingye to sleep, I stood alone in the courtyard, gazing at the vast starry sky, my mind unsettled. In my previous life, I had schemed ruthlessly for the emperor's favor, for rank and power, only to harm others and myself in the end. In this life, I had wished only to remain untouched, to keep Qingye away from strife. Yet now, it seemed, the tree longs for stillness, but the wind will not cease. At the end of February, the weather grew warmer. One day when I went to pay respects at Funing Palace, the Empress Dowager mentioned, the Emperor has recently asked about your relationship with concubine Wanmei. My teacup stilled in my hand. The Emperor. What did he say? He said you've always kept to yourself, but lately you've grown rather close with Wanmei. He asked if I knew the reason. The Empress Dowager gave me a long, meaningful look. I set down the cup. This concubine only chats with her occasionally about poetry and books, nothing more. That might fool others, but not the Emperor. The Empress Dowager shook her head. He is suspicious by nature. You have the eldest prince, and now you seem allied with his favored consort. How could he not be suspicious? My heart jolted. She was right. With his temperament, the emperor would surely suspect I had ulterior motives in befriending Yan Shu. I was careless, I murmured. Please guide me, Empress Dowager. The emperor most detests the harem colluding with the court. She spoke slowly. If he believes you are befriending Wanmei for Qingye's future, then a chill swept down my spine. That was indeed the very reason behind my alliance with Yan Shu. This concubine understands, I said solemnly. I will be cautious. In early April, shocking news spread through the palace. Consort Li's father, Pei Jinyu, achieved a grand victory in the northwest, annihilating 30,000 enemies, capturing the enemy chieftain. This meant Li Fei's backing grew stronger than ever, and that she herself was poised to regain favor. Your ladyship, they say His Majesty was overjoyed and intends to promote Consort Li further, Yan Shuang said anxiously. I calmly pruned a pot of orchids. As expected. But Consort Li has always regarded you as a thorn in her side. It doesn't matter. I set the shears down. Summon Wanmei. When Yan Shu arrived, her face was drawn. Your ladyship has heard? General Pei has one great merit. Mei Chem, I poured her tea. What are your thoughts? She pondered. The Pei family is too powerful. It's unwise to clash head-on for now. This concubine intends to avoid the edge. Wise. I nodded. Once Consort Li regains favor, her first target will be you. For now, go out as little as possible. Be wary of all food and clothing. Yan Shu looked at me gratefully. Thank you for your guidance. There is another matter I have yet to tell His Majesty. What matter? This concubine. Maybe with child. My teacup trembled. Are you certain? Not yet. My courses are half a month late, and lately I feel nauseous. She touched her still flat belly. I wished to wait for certainty before announcing. I thought a moment. Do not speak of it yet. If Li Fei finds out, she will go mad. Yan Shu nodded. This concubine understands. I gazed at her abdomen, my emotions tangled. In my past life, Yan Shu had also conceived, yet in the end. If history repeated itself, should I intervene or stand by? Wanmei, I said gravely, from today, I will personally oversee your meals. Clothes and belongings, take only what I provide. Her eyes shimmered with gratitude. Your ladyship, no need for words, I cut her off. Just remember, for our promise. After sending her away, I stood at the window for a long time, silent. Li Fei regaining favor, Yan Shu pregnant, talk of naming an heir rising in court. All these would upend the palace balance. And I, who should have remained detached in this reborn life, was already deeply entangled. Yan Shuang, I said softly, fetch that set of silver needles from the storeroom. And from today, all food and drink in Zhaohua Hall must be checked with utmost care. On the 5th day of the 5th month, the Dragon Boat Festival, a palace banquet was held. I had not wanted Qingye to attend, but the emperor decreed all princes must be present. Before leaving, I warned him again and again, remember eat only what is brought from Zhaohua Hall. Refuse everything else. Your son remembers. Qingye nodded obediently. Mother has said it many times. I adjusted his collar, unease tightening in my chest. At the banquet, Yan Shu wore loose robes. Though not yet showing, her face glowed with a mother's radiance. Consort Li, bedecked in jewels, was resplendent. She frequently toasted the emperor, her words dripping with pride. With her father's fresh victory, His Majesty indulged her greatly. Halfway through, a young maid accidentally spilled wine over Yan Shu. As she rose to change, I noticed Li Fei exchange a signal with her own maid. Yanqiu, I murmured, follow her quietly. Do not alarm anyone. Yanqiu slipped away, and soon returned, whispering urgently in my ear, Your ladyship, trouble. Someone lit musk in the side chamber where Wanmei was to change. My chopsticks nearly snapped. Musk. In my past life, Yanshu's first child had been lost to musk. What of her? I demanded. I warned her in time she didn't enter. But. Yancho lowered her voice further. The maid let slip something. Now the whole banquet knows Wanmei is with child. My heart sank. So her pregnancy had been forced into the open at the very moment of Li Fei's triumph. Sure enough, the emperor was overjoyed, immediately elevating Yan Shu to Wan Jieyu, showering her with gifts. Li Fei smiled stiffly, but venom blazed in her eyes. After the feast, I maneuvered us into secrecy behind a rockery in the imperial garden. Today was no accident, I said. Yan Shu's face was pale. Then my household must be riddled with Li Fei's spies. Your maid fooling, I said flatly. She's Li Fei's. Yan Shu stared at me, shocked. How does your ladyship know? Instinct. I brushed it off. What matters is clearing them out. From now on, I will personally arrange your meals and clothing. Yan Shu grasped my hand gratefully. Your ladyship's kindness, this concubine will never forget. No need. Just remember this, from today, you are ill. Apart from paying respects to the Empress daily, stay hidden. As for His Majesty, find your own excuse. She nodded, eyes resolute. Back at my palace, I prepared a set of silver needles and antidotal herbs to send her next morning. At my side, Yan Shuang hesitated. Your ladyship. Why do you care so much for Wan Jieyu? If it is only for the eldest prince, it seems unnecessary. Yan Shuang. I interrupted. Some things don't require a reason. In my past life, I harmed without reason. In this one, if I wish to save, I need no reason either. On the 7th of the 5th month, a nightmare struck. I was writing when Yancho burst in, panic-stricken, Your ladyship. The eldest prince fainted in the study hall. Darkness swept before my eyes. In my past life, Qingye had died young. Had my rebirth changed nothing? Summon the imperial physicians. Report to Qingjin Hall. By the time I reached him, Qingye had been moved to a side chamber, lying pale and lips blue on the couch. Grand Tutor Zhang was wringing his hands. What happened? I rushed forward, clutching his icy hand. Replying to your ladyship, the tutor stammered, the prince was well just now. Suddenly he said he was dizzy, then collapsed. I felt his pulse thin, erratic, sometimes vanishing altogether. Poison. What did he consume today? I demanded. Oh, only the tea provided here in the study. I snatched up the cup, sniffed. A faint scent of bitter almonds. Arsenic. Exactly what Li Fei used in my past life to kill Consort Lu. Quick boil mung bean licorice soup. I barked at Yancho. Fetch the white jade vial from the bottom of my jewel case. By the time the physicians arrived, I had already forced down my own antidote pill prepared secretly since my rebirth, waiting for this very day. The physicians hesitated at my interference. Arsenic, I snapped. The dose was small, but the child as young cannot endure it. Needle treatment now. Shocked by my diagnosis, they obeyed. When the emperor arrived, Qingye had just vomited black blood and his breathing steadied. What happened? His face was thunderous. The physicians knelt. Reporting to your majesty, the eldest prince was poisoned. Fortunately, her ladyship discerned it swiftly and administered the proper medicine. His life was saved. The emperor turned to me, astonished. I only clung to Qingye's hand, terrified to let go. Investigate. His majesty roared. Find the culprit. Once Qingye was out of danger, I ordered Yan Shuang and Yanqiu to guard him ceaselessly, while I stormed to Jiangyun Palace. Li Fei was admiring flowers. On seeing me, she feigned surprise. Oh? What brings elder sister here? It was you who poisoned him. My voice was cold as ice. She smiled blandly. What makes you say that? I, too, am saddened by the eldest prince's plight. The eunuch who served the tea was from your palace, I advanced. Dare you deny it? Her eyes narrowed. She dismissed her servants. When only the two of us remained, her false smile vanished. So what if it was me? Do you have proof? My nails dug into my palms. In my past life, I would have retaliated with equal venom. But now. I forced myself calm. No proof, I said evenly. But hear me, Li Fifqingye suffers even half an injury again, I swear your Pei clan will pay with their lives. She laughed. By you? My father is a war hero, the court relies on him. Even His Majesty must yield to him. Who do you think you are? Your father's merit casts too long a shadow, I murmured. Tell me, do you truly believe the emperor bears no resentment? Her face flickered. You dare sow discord? I don't need to. Just wait and see how long the Pei clan prospers. I turned and left, legs nearly buckling, rage and terror threatening to drown me. So close I had nearly lost Qingye again. Your ladyship. Yanqiu rushed up. The prince has awoken and asks for you. I drew a deep breath, steadied myself. Returned to the palace. In Qingjin Hall, the air was heavy as iron. The emperor sat high on the throne, face black with fury. I knelt below as Li Dequan reported, the tea indeed contained arsenic. Investigation shows the eunuch serving it was transferred here only 2 months ago. He hailed from the same hometown as Jiangyun Palace's steward. But what? The emperor's voice was sharp. The eunuch drowned himself in a well last night. The emperor slammed the table. So. No witnesses remain. I knelt in silence, coldly amused. Li Fei was thorough indeed, every trail severed neatly. Consort Xian, the emperor suddenly asked, how did you recognize arsenic at a glance? I was prepared. When I was young, a servant in my household once ingested arsenic by mistake. The symptoms were the same. In idle years, I read medical texts, so I recognized it. He studied me for a long time, weighing truth and lies. At last, he nodded. This time, you rendered great service. Turning to Li Dequan, he commanded, Li Fei's negligence endangered the prince. Dock her stipend for half a year, confine her 3 months. Just that. My son had nearly died, and the culprit received a slap on the wrist. Your Majesty, I couldn't stop myself. Qingye, I know. He cut me off. But her father has just won a great victory. The court needs him. I lowered my eyes. Said no more. Indeed, in an emperor's heart, the life of a son weighed less than the stability of the realm. Consort Xian, his voice softened, I will assign more guards to protect Qingye. Also, for your service in saving him, promoted to noble consort. Noble consort. I nearly laughed aloud. Titles, to compensate near bereavement, that was an emperor's so-called favor. This concubine thanks your Majesty's grace, I intoned woodenly. The decree spread through the harem. I felt no joy. Though Qingye was safe, his body remained frail. I never left his side, preparing medicine, spoon-feeding him, terrified of another mishap. Mother consort, your son is fine, Qingye whispered weakly, smiling. Don't cry. Only then did I realize my tears had fallen onto his cheek. I hastily wiped them. Mother isn't crying, just dust in her eye. On the 5th day, Empress Duaning herself came to Zhaohua Hall. Sister, she said, seeing my haggard face, her eyes full of sorrow, you've borne much these days. I forced a smile. Thank you for your concern. Qingye is much better now. She dismissed her attendants, checked Qingye herself, then drew me aside. I know who poisoned him. I started. You have evidence? No, she gave a bitter smile. But I am not blind. Li Fei has always viewed Qingye as a thorn. Now that Wan Jiayu is pregnant, she grows more desperate. I stayed silent. Duaning continued, I have already decreed, henceforth, All princes' meals shall be prepared under strict oversight. Every dish must be tasted beforehand. Also, she lowered her voice, I placed extra guards for Wan Jiu as well. I looked at her in astonishment. In my past life, Duaning had been timid, never daring to oppose Li Fei. Yet this life, she was resolute. Why? I asked. Because I am the Empress. Her eyes were firm. It is my duty to protect the royal heirs. And besides, she squeezed my hand, Qingye grew up under my care, too. Warmth flooded my heart. Tears nearly fell. Once bitter foes, now united for the same cause. Fate was strange indeed. Thank you, sister, I said sincerely. She shook her head. No thanks needed. I have already requested His Majesty allow Qingye to recuperate in a side hall of Fingyi Palace. It is near Qingjin Hall. The Emperor can visit often, and it is safer there. I understood. As Empress's domain, Fingyi Palace was a sanctuary. Li Fei would not dare act there. This concubine does not know how to repay sister's kindness. Just care for Qingye well, Duaning said softly. He is a good child. In the future, he will achieve great things. Her words carried weight. I understood. In early June, Qingye's health improved, and he was moved to Fingyi Palace's side hall. When Yanshu secretly visited, I was folding Qingye's clothes. Your ladyship, she greeted. Is the eldest prince recovered? Much better. I gestured for her to sit. Thanks to the Empress's care. She nodded. The Empress has also shown much kindness to this concubine lately. Gently touching her belly, she added, if this child survives, I will not forget the Empress and your ladyship's grace. I looked at her still flat abdomen, heart tangled. In my past life, her first child had been lost. Could I change that this time? Li Fei will not relent, I said bluntly. You are with child now, be even more cautious. I understand the obsession of the past had turned into today's protection. Perhaps this was the meaning of rebirth, not only to change the ending, but also to change oneself. At the beginning of the 7th month, a memorial from the northwest shook the entire court. Pei Jingyu actually dared to use day and night vigilance to describe his own merits. The Empress Dowager slammed her teacup heavily on the table, sneering again and again, so now he compares himself to Zhuge Liang? I sat quietly at her side, gently kneading her shoulders. This scene had played out in my previous life as well. Pei Jingyu's arrogant memorial became the beginning of the Pei family's downfall. What was the Emperor's reaction? The Empress Dowager asked Consort Suaha at her side. His Majesty flew into a rage and tore the memorial apart in open court, Suaha replied in a low voice. He has already issued a decree reprimanding Pei Jingyu and summoning him back to the capital to report in person. The Empress Dowager gave me a meaningful look. Nianqing, what do you think? My hands did not stop moving. Your servant is dull and does not understand state affairs. Only those who hold excessive power rarely meet a good end. The Empress Dowager nodded with satisfaction. You see clearly enough. She patted my hand. And how has Consort Li behaved lately? Since her confinement, she has been much more subdued, I replied truthfully. But I heard she secretly sent letters to the northwest. A sharp light flashed in the Empress Dowager's eyes. The information is reliable? It was Lady Wan who told me, I answered softly. She has Li Fei's spies in her palace, but also planted her own eyes and ears in Zhangyun Palace. The Empress Dowager chuckled. This Lady Wan. Quite resourceful. She paused for a moment. Let her keep watching. If there's any movement, inform me immediately. I understand. When I left Funing Palace, I caught sight of Li Dequan hurrying toward the Hall of Governance with several young eunuchs, carrying a thick stack of memorials. Judging by the amount, today's court session must be full of impeachments against Pei Jingyu. When I returned to Zhaohua Palace, Qingye was studying. Since the poisoning incident, he had grown thinner, but his eyes had become more resolute. Mother consort, he set down his book and came forward. How is grandmother Empress Dowager's health? She is well, and she even asked after you. I stroked his head. How are your studies? Grand Tutor Zhang said your son has made great progress. Qingye's eyes sparkled. Today father came to the study and praised my essay. Warmth filled my heart. Oh, and... Qingye lowered his voice. I overheard father and Grand Tutor Zhang talking. It sounded like they planned to deal with Grand General Pei. My heart skipped a beat. What else did you hear? They said General Pei is arrogant and does not respect father. Mother consort, he frowned in confusion. Hasn't Grand General Pei won many battles? Why would father be displeased? I thought for a moment before speaking softly. Qingye, remember my words. A minister, no matter how great his merit, is still a minister. If he forgets his place, disaster will follow. Qingye nodded obediently. Mid-7th month, Yan Shu suddenly came to visit in secret. Your ladyship, her face was pale, something has happened. I dismissed the servants. Speak slowly. The other day, physician Zhou took my pulse. He said, I might be carrying twins. Yan Shu's voice trembled. In the imperial family, this was considered ominous. If word spread like consequences meant falling from favor, the heavy ones. I dared not think further. Can Zhou be trusted? He is my confidant. For now, he is keeping it secret. Yan Shu bit her lip. But once the months advance, it will be impossible to hide. I considered. There are two options. One, use medicine to make one fetus wither naturally, preserving only one healthy child. 2, find a way to deceive everyone until delivery, and then make arrangements. Tears welled in Yan Shu's eyes. Your servant. Cannot bear to part with either of them. I understood. In my past life, though I never truly loved the emperor, my motherly love for Qingye was genuine. A mother's bond with the children in her womb, I knew it best. Then we choose the second path, I said decisively. From today, you will wear loose clothing. I will prepare medicinal dishes to control the fetus's size, so your belly will not seem so large. Gratitude filled Yan Shu's gaze as she clutched my hand. Your ladyship's kindness, don't be too quick to thank me, I said sternly. This path is dangerous. If discovered, it will be the crime of deceiving the emperor. Your servant understands, Yan Shu replied firmly. For my children, I am willing to risk it. I nodded. And for delivery, we must have reliable people in place. I will be there myself. Yan Shu stared in shock. That is too dangerous. If something happens, your ladyship, I laughed softly. Do not worry. I have experience. Though I have never borne twins, I have witnessed many difficult births. Now, let me take your pulse. She obediently extended her wrist. I carefully examined it. Her pulse was slippery and strong, indeed a sign of twins, though her qi and blood were somewhat weak. You must replenish your qi and blood, but not excessively, or the babies will grow too large. And remember, aside from physician Zhou and myself, no third person can know the truth. Not even the emperor or the empress. Yan Shu bowed deeply. Your servant will remember. At the end of the 7th month, the emperor suddenly visited Jiaohua Palace. Your Majesty, 10,000 blessings, I said in surprise, bowing. Since I was promoted to noble consort, he had come even less often. Perhaps he thought I had already been granted enough. Rise, the emperor said, seeming in good spirits. Where is Qingye? He is in the study. Shall I summon him? No need. I came to see you. He sat down and accepted the tea handed to him. Recently, I read Qingye's essays. They are insightful, especially his proposal on managing the Yellow River. Even the Grand Tutor praised it. Your Majesty flatters him, I answered humbly. Qingye only speaks from books, nothing more. No, has talent. The emperor's eyes gleamed with an unusual light. I intend to let him begin learning simple state affairs. My heart jolted. In the previous life, Qingye had no such opportunity. But now the emperor himself proposed it. Blessing or curse? Your Majesty, Qingye is but 11. He is my eldest son. It is only right he bear responsibility early. I fell silent, then softly said, I only wish Qingye to grow up safe. The emperor frowned. Noble consort, you are always so perceptive. Why are you muddle-headed in this matter? If Qingye remains only a carefree prince, when a new ruler ascends one day, how will he protect himself? A chill ran through me. His words clearly hinted had considered naming Qingye heir. I only fear he is too young to bear the burden. With me here, what do you fear? The emperor's voice softened for once. I will teach him myself. You need only be his mother. I lowered my head in assent, though my heart was a storm of conflicting feelings. After the emperor left, I immediately summoned Qingye back. Mother, he came running in, excited. Today I composed a poem, and father praised it many times. I drew him to sit beside me. Qingye, mother has a question. If father asked you to begin learning to handle state affairs, would you be willing? His eyes shone. Truly? Your son would. Do you know what that means? I asked gravely. It will be very hard. And very dangerous. I know. Qingye's reply was unexpectedly mature. Grand Tutor once said, when heaven is about to place a great responsibility upon a man, it must first distress his mind and labor his body. Your son does not fear hardship. He hesitated, then added softly, is mother afraid? It will be like last time? A pang pierced my heart. I pulled him into my arms. Mother only wishes you to be safe and happy. I understand. He leaned against me. But your son also wants to be like father, to serve the nation and its people, to accomplish something great. Looking at his resolute eyes, I suddenly realized my child had grown. No longer the little boy who needed my constant protection, but a youth with his own aspirations. Very well. I kissed his forehead. Since you have decided, mother will support you. But promise me, whatever difficulties you face, you must tell me. Do you understand? Qingye nodded firmly. Your son promises. At the start of the 8th month, Pei Jinyu was summoned back to the capital. The news came while I was playing chess with the Empress Dowager. Pei Jinyu knelt outside Qianyuan Gate for an hour yesterday. The emperor refused to see him. The Empress Dowager casually placed a piece. I feigned surprise. His Majesty is that angry? Not only that. The Empress Dowager sneered. Now, someone has impeached him for embezzling military funds and forming factions. The emperor ordered Prince Rui to investigate. My heart leapt. In the past life, the Pei family's downfall began with these very charges. Does Consort Li know? Of course, the Empress Dowager said meaningfully. I hear porcelain has been breaking often in Zhongyun Palace these days. I remained silent. No matter how arrogantly Fei was, she depended entirely on the Pei clan. If the Pei family fell, her end would soon follow. Nianqing, the Empress Dowager suddenly asked, if Consort Li loses her power, who do you think should manage the 6 palaces? My hand froze over the chessboard. Naturally, the Empress. Her temperament is too gentle. The Empress Dowager shook her head. These years, if not for your support, she would have been crushed by Consort Li long ago. My heart trembled. Was the Empress Dowager hinting at me taking control of the harem? Your servant is unworthy enough. She cut me off. I know your ambition does not lie there. But her gaze was profound. Some responsibilities are not yours to refuse. Leaving Funing Palace, my thoughts turned. The Empress Dowager was right. As Qingye gained favor, I could no longer remain completely detached. If I could not avoid it, then I might as well take the initiative. On the way back, I encountered Yan Shu, just out from the Hall of Governance. Your servant greets noble consort, she said formally, though her eyes glittered strangely. No need for ceremony, I replied coolly. How is His Majesty? He just finished reviewing memorials and has retired. Yan Shu lowered her voice. Your ladyship, grave news. His Majesty has just decreed that Pei Jinyu be stripped of his title of Grand General of the realm, demoted to General of Jiangning. My heart jolted. This came even sooner than in the past life. Clearly, the Emperor's patience with Pei Jinyu had reached its limit. Does Consort Li know? Not yet, a sly gleam flickered in Yan Shu's eyes. But I've already arranged matters. When she learns, there will be quite a spectacle. I shot her a warning look. Don't go too far. Your servant understands, she answered meekly, but the light in her eyes revealed she already had plans. On the 15th day of the 8th month, Mid-Autumn Festival, the palace held a banquet in celebration. Consort Li claimed illness and did not attend. Ever since the news of Pei Jinyu's demotion spread, she had shut her doors and refused to see anyone. The atmosphere in Jianyun Palace was filled with gloom. At the banquet, Empress Duaning looked in good health. She presided over the event with ease. Yan Shu, due to an unstable pregnancy, also did not attend, which eased some of my worries. After the feast dispersed, Duaning deliberately kept me behind. Sister, walk with me, she said. Moonlight fell like water over the stone path of the imperial garden. Duaning waved away her attendants and walked side by side with me. Nianqing, she suddenly called me by name. Thank you for these years. I looked at her in surprise. Sister, why would you say that? This palace knows well. If it weren't for you working quietly behind the scenes, I would have long since been unable to hold my position as Empress. Duaning gazed up at the moon. In the past, I poured all my heart into the Emperor and could not see the perils of the harem clearly. Until what? I asked. Until I saw you. Duaning turned toward me. You do not compete, do not fight, yet everything is handled perfectly. You are indifferent to fame and gain, yet no one dares to bully you. Only then did I understand that a woman can live like this. Without clinging entirely to a man, she can still live brilliantly. In my previous life, Duaning lived and died consumed by love. But in this life, because of my influence, she had found her own worth. Sister, you overpraise me, I said softly. I am merely used to being idle. Duaning smiled. You always so modest. Then her face grew solemn. I asked you here today because there is something important I must discuss. The Pei family is about to lose power. With Consort Li's downfall, the structure of the harem will inevitably change. I want to ask you to help me manage the 6 palaces. I looked at her in astonishment. To manage the 6 palaces meant immense authority yet also immense responsibility. I fear I don't be quick to refuse. Duaning grasped my hand. It is not for me, but for Qingye. He is growing up day by day. If you hold no power, how can you protect him? I fell silent for a moment. She was right. In this deep palace, power was the best shield. If I wanted to protect Qingye, I could not forever remain in the shadows. Your consort obeys, I finally said. Duaning smiled in relief. Excellent. With you and I united as sisters, the harem will surely remain peaceful. Sisters united. Once upon a time, we were mortal enemies. Now we had become true sisters. Fate was indeed strange. On the way back to my palace, I looked up at the starry sky, feeling a peace I had never known before. The grudges and resentments of my past life seemed to have all scattered with the wind. In this life, I had finally found my place. Not as a power-hungry empress, nor as a reclusive concubine who endured in silence but as a mother with the strength to protect those I loved. Friendship. Sisterhood. Qingye's future. Yan Shu's children. Duaning's trust. These had all become my new purpose in life. As for the emperor no longer mattered to me. In the 9th month, news broke like thunder through the court, Pei Jinyu had been dismissed and investigated. That day, I was teaching Qingye how to identify medicinal herbs when Yanqiu came running in. Your Highness, grave news. General Pei has been escorted back to the capital and thrown into the Ministry of Justice's prison. The pestle in my hand paused slightly. Faster and harsher than in the previous life. What of Jiangyun Palace? I asked. Consort Li clamored to see His Majesty, but Li Dequan blocked her outside Qingjing Hall. I heard that when she returned, she smashed many things and even beat a few palace maids in her rage. I sighed lightly, a trace of sorrow in my heart. No matter how arrogant she had been, Consort Li was still nothing more than a prisoner in this gilded cage, her life tethered to her father and brother's power. Mother Consort Li. Qingye raised his little face to me. I patted his head. She has lost what was most important to her. Remember this, Qingye, in life, you must never pin all your hopes on external things. Whether power, wealth, or another's favor, they can all vanish in an instant. Only the strength within one's own heart is true reliance. Qingye nodded earnestly. He might not yet understand the tears and blood behind these words, but one day, he would. Your Highness. Yan Shuang suddenly ran in, flustered. Something has happened at Shiyu Pavilion. Lady Yan has been struck with sudden abdominal pains. Imperial physician Zhou says it is poisoning. The pestle slipped from my hand and clattered to the ground. It had come Consort Li's desperate counterattack. Prepare the sedan. I ordered sharply. Qingye, stay here in the palace. Do not go anywhere. Shiyu Pavilion was in chaos. Yan Shu lay pale and drenched in cold sweat upon the bed, her hands clutching the bedding tightly. Physician Zhou was performing acupuncture, his face grim. What happened? I rushed forward. Narium oleander powder, Physician Zhou said, his voice trembling. It was mixed into Lady Yan's prenatal medicine. Fortunately, it was discovered in time. Otherwise I immediately seized Yan Shu's wrist to check her pulse. Slippery yet scattered indeed the signs of poisoning. But not yet fatal. The two fetuses in her womb still had strong heartbeats. Fetch the detoxification powder from my palace. I shouted to Yan Shuang. And the silver needle kit quickly. She flew out at once. Has she been induced to vomit? I asked Zhou. Yes, but it's not enough. I checked Yan Shu's pupils. Oleander poison attacks the heart. Her cardiac pulse had to be protected immediately. I took a small vial from my pouch and poured out 2 pills. This I made myself. Rhinoceros horn, musk, bezoar. Physician Zhou's eyes widened. But musk is harmful too. A small dose will do no harm. Saving her life is the priority. I pried open Yan Shu's mouth and forced the pills down. Soon, her breathing steadied, though she remained unconscious. The children keep them safe, she murmured faintly. I clasped her hand. Do not fear. Both you and the children will live. Yan Shuang returned with the medicine and needles. I personally administered the treatment. In my previous life, I had studied poisons to compete for favor. Now, I used that knowledge to save a life. 2 hours later, Yan Shu was out of danger. All thanks to your Highness's divine hands, Physician Zhou said, wiping his brow. Who poisoned her? I demanded coldly. A palace maid knelt, trembling. It was Consort Li's maid Yongxiang. She pretended to be from the household department, delivering the medicine. My eyes grew icy. Just as I expected. Driven into a corner, Consort Li dared to harm imperial heirs. Take good care of your mistress, I told them. Any unusual changes report to me at once. Leaving Shiyu Pavilion, I went straight to Jiangyun Palace. The doors were shut, but the sounds of shattering and crying from inside were unmistakable. I ordered the guards not to announce me, and pushed the doors open. The hall was in disarray. Consort Li stood amid shards of porcelain, her once beautiful face twisted grotesquely. Shen Yanqing. She turned, eyes blazing with venom. Here to laugh at me? I have no such leisure, I replied coldly. Consort Leo ordered an attempt on Lady Yan's life. The evidence is irrefutable. She laughed wildly. Evidence? That slut still lives. What a pity. She hurled a vase at the floor. The Pei family is ruined. What have I to fear? I took a step closer. Think of Pei Langxin, your niece. She is only 12. Would you drag her down as well? Consort Li stiffened. You know about launching? I know more than you think. Withdraw, while you still can. His Majesty may spare your life for the Pei family's past merits. But if Lady Yan or the heirs suffer even the slightest ha-ha-ha. Consort Li broke into hysterical laughter. Shen Yanqing, you played the aloof saint your whole life. Now you finally reveal your true face. For that slut Yan Shush worth it? Not for her, I said calmly. For the innocent children. Her laughter stopped abruptly. She stared at me, her gaze unreadable. Do you know who I hate most? She whispered hoarsely. You. Always above it all. Always untainted. Do you think you've won? I'll tell you there are no winners in this palace. Looking at the madness in her eyes, I suddenly felt a wave of pity. In my past life, Consort Li had also gone down the same path destroyed by despair. I will see to Pei Lanqin, I said softly. At the very least, I will find her a good household to marry into. Consort Li froze. The frenzy in her eyes faded into bewilderment, then deep exhaustion. She sank slowly to the ground, like a woman suddenly aged. Why, she murmured. Why must it be you? I gave no answer. I turned and left. Behind me, her anguished sobs echoed in that gilded prison, long and unending. 3 days later, an imperial edict was issued. Consort Li of the Pei clan was found guilty of attempting to harm imperial heirs. She was stripped of title, reduced to commoner, and cast into the cold palace. Pei Jinyu was executed, and the Pei family's estate confiscated, its members exiled. Only the underage girls were pardoned. On the 10th day of the 10th month, Yan Shu went into labor. The autumn skies were clear and bright. I went early to Shuyu Pavilion to oversee matters. How is it? Duaning asked anxiously. Your Majesty, Physician Zhou replied, the fetus is properly positioned. The birth should be smooth. He wiped sweat from his brow. Only what? I interjected. Only that Lady Yan's body is weak. It may be a long labor. But there is no need for alarm. Duaning nodded, then drew me aside. Nianqing, if she truly bears twins, I have already prepared a solution. What solution? We shall say the second child is a heavenly blessing, a sign of auspicious fortune granted because of my devout prayers. By custom, it can be raised under my name. Her eyes sparkled. This way, the taboo is avoided, and her words were cut short by Yan Shu's agonized cry. The head is visible, the midwife cried. Push, my lady, push. After 4 long hours, a baby's loud wail split the night air. A little prince, the midwife announced joyfully. Before relief could spread, Yan Shu clutched the sheets. There's another. Physician Zhou's face paled. Quickly prepare. The second is coming. Another hour of agonizing struggle passed before the second child arrived safely. A little Princess Gunan Phoenix twins, the midwife gasped in wonder. A great omen. Duaning fell to her knees and kowtowed to the heavens. This is proof of His Majesty's virtue moving heaven and earth. The heavens bless Great Xia with auspicious signs. The news reached Qingjing Hall. The emperor, overjoyed, immediately elevated Yan Shu to lady of rank, consort Yan, bestowed 1,000 taels of gold, and declared the twins a heavenly auspice. The taboo of twins was erased beneath the proclamation of Dragon and Phoenix auspiciousness. I looked at the weary yet radiant Yan Shu and the 2 healthy infants at her side. At last, the heavy stone in my heart was lifted. The tragedy of my past life had been rewritten. In the spring of the 10th year of Kong Yuan, in the imperial garden, I sat in a pavilion watching the children play nearby. 16-year-old Qingye was teaching consort Yan's 5-year-old twins to write, his expression both serious and gentle. "You seem in good spirits, sister," Duaning said gracefully as she approached and sat beside me. "Sister." I rose to salute her, but she pulled me down. "No need for courtesy," she said with a smile. "See how happy the children are at play?" I nodded. Over the past 5 years, the harem had known unusual peace. Consort Li spent the rest of her days in the cold palace. The other concubines kept to themselves. Duaning governed the inner palace with order, while Yan Shu and I became her most trusted assistants. "I heard His Majesty examined Qingye's lessons yesterday and praised him?" Duaning asked. "Yes," I smiled. "The Emperor has already had him begin practicing memorial reviews." Duaning gave me a meaningful look. "Talk of appointing a crown prince has begun again." My expression did not change. "Qingye is still young. There is no rush." She shook her head. "Another in your place would be desperate to push her son forward. Only you can remain so detached." "It is not detachment," I said. "It is clarity. In my past life, I failed to see through the game of power. In this life, I understand all too well. The throne is not necessarily a blessing. Safety is the greatest fortune. By the way," Duaning suddenly lowered her voice, "Consort Yan is with child again." I nodded. 2 months along. Physician Zhou says the pregnancy is stable. How wonderful, Duaning said, though her eyes flickered with a trace of envy. Then I let it go. This palace had no fortune to give me a child of my own. But now, with Qingqing and Anning, I am content. Qingqing and Anning were the formal names of Yan Shu's twins. Out of gratitude for the protection she and the Empress received from me, Yan Shu had taken the initiative to request that the Prince Qingqing be registered under Duaning's name, giving the childless Duaning a lifelong support. The little Princess Anning she kept by her own side. My elder sister treats them as her own. That is their blessing, I said sincerely. Duaning patted my hand. We are sisters. No need for such words. Sisters. Yes. Now, we were truly sisters. The grudges of the previous life had long since blown away with the wind. Mother, noble consort. Little Anning came running over, hopping with delight, holding up a freshly picked flower. For you. Duaning joyfully picked her up. Anning is such a good girl. Watching this scene, my heart was filled with warmth. In my previous life, Anning had never been born. But in this one, she had become everyone's little joy. How marvelous fate's changes could be. Autumn, the 15th year of Kang Yuan. The emperor was gravely ill. That day, I went to Qingjin Hall to pay my respects. The emperor leaned against his couch, his face ashen, yet his eyes still sharp. The noble consort has come, he said weakly, waving his hand. Sit. I gave my courtesy, then sat where he indicated. Your Majesty looks better than yesterday, I said. The emperor gave a coughing laugh. My body, I know it well. My time is running short. I stayed silent. In my past life, at this very time, he too had fallen ill. But then, I had already been deposed to the cold palace, never permitted to see him again. Nianqing. He suddenly called me by my maiden name. I have long wanted to ask you something. Please speak, Your Majesty. All these years, why have you never sought my favor? The emperor's gaze was fixed upon me. I have seen too many women exhaust every trick for affection. Only you remain detached. Why? I had not expected such a question. After a pause, I answered softly, I thought. The love of an emperor is but flowers in a mirror, the moon in the water, something that cannot be forced. Better to guard one's own heart, and live freely. The emperor gave a bitter smile, sighing. Qingye. I am very pleased with him. He is benevolent and clever. He will surely be a wise ruler. My heart jolted. This was a clear sign he intended to make Qingye the heir. Your Majesty, I know you would rather he not be drawn into the struggle, the Emperor cut me off. But Great Xia needs a sovereign like him. He struggled upright, his breath shallow. Nianqing. Promise me. If something happens to me, you must guide Qingye well. Make him a virtuous ruler. I sank to my knees solemnly. Your consort will remember this. The Emperor closed his eyes in exhaustion. Go. Let Duaning and the children come in. I withdrew with a bow. At the doorway, I met Duaning, Yan Shu, and the children. Qingye, now 21, tall and dignified, bore both his father's firmness and my softness in his features. Sister. He looked at me, anxious. Father? I smoothed his collar. Go. Your father awaits you. As I watched them enter Qingjin Hall, I suddenly understood in this life, I had finally gained everything I once yearned for in vain, the safe growth of my children, true sisterhood, and peace within my heart. As for the old hatreds and feuds, they no longer mattered. Spring, the 16th year of Kan Yuan. The emperor passed away. Qingye ascended the throne, taking the reign title Jingming. At the enthronement ceremony, I watched my son in his dragon robe. My heart was full of pride and calm. Mother. After the ceremony, the young emperor called to me. Your son feels somewhat uneasy. I adjusted his crown. Remember your mother's words. For a ruler, benevolence is the foundation, and the people come first. As long as your heart holds the people, you need not fear. Qingye bowed his head gravely. Your son will remember mother's teachings. Duaning was honored as Empress Dowager. I was honored as the Grand Empress Dowager, styled the Holy Mother. Yan Shu was promoted to Noble Dowager Consort. Her son, Qingqing, was granted the title of Prince. Little Anning was ennobled as Princess Anning. Both the court and harem were harmonious. Those bloody struggles seemed like a distant past. One day, in the garden of Jingfu Palace, I was taking tea. Yan Shu brought Anning to pay respects. Empress Dowager. She saluted properly, though mischief danced in her eyes. How have you been of late? Very well. I smiled, pulling little Anning close. You've grown taller again. Anning nestled against me sweetly. Mother, Anning wants to hear a story. What kind of story? A story. About when you were young. I glanced at Yan Shu. And we both smiled. When I was young. That is a very long story. A story about rebirth, about redemption, about how a woman laid down hatred and found true happiness. The memories of the previous life felt like a nightmare. But in this life I had lived well. The end.